You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. In the wake of the election, which gave this country, I will wrap my mouth around these words, President-elect Donald J. Trump. In the wake of that, we have a special edition of this program for you today. The entire program will be devoted to a roundtable of feminist thinkers on what just happened, how did we get here, where do we go from here? And they're among the best minds that the women's movement has. It will include Maria Teresa Kumar, who is the founding president and CEO of Voto Latino, and is herself an Emmy-nominated contributor with MSNBC. Voto Latino has become a key factor in national elections, particularly this one, by being the voice of the Latina community and by directly registering over 225,000 new voters. And she's a frequent guest on this program as well. Gloria Steinem will also be with us. She, of course, is an author and an activist, was one of the founders of Ms. and a co-founder of the National Women's Political Caucus, and together with Jane Fonda and myself, a co-founder of the Women's Media Center. Her newest book is just out in paperback, and it's called My Life on the Road, and Gloria will be here, as will Eleanor Smeal, one of our great tacticians and strategists in the women's movement. L.A. Smeal was a former president of NOW, National Organization for Women, for many years, and then was a founder of the Feminist Majority Foundation, which itself is a remarkably activist group, has the largest campus group organization in the country, and is the publisher of Ms. Magazine. And Salamishah Tillet will also be here. She is an author, a scholar, an activist, and a social critic, as well as being the Associate Professor of English and Africana Studies at the University of Pennsylvania. And she's also the co-founder of A Long Walk Home, which is a Chicago-based national nonprofit organization that uses art to educate and empower young people to end violence against women and girls. This is a good bouquet of first-rate minds to address the issue. But before we get into any of that, first we need to go inside the headlines. You know, survival itself is a form of triumph. Not just endurance, but survival. So here is some good news inside the headlines that may have been dwarfed in your attention by the headlines, or may have even fallen between the cracks and you never heard about these things. And they're all helpful. For one thing, marijuana legalization, one big time. This is useful because some people may opt to stay absolutely ripped stoned for the next 4 years, or at least the next 2. Marijuana won in California, Massachusetts, Maine, and Nevada. They voted to legalize recreational use, and voters in Arkansas, Florida, North Dakota, and Montana passed measures to make the drug available for medical use. And with these new laws, more than 20% of the American population is in a state or territory that has legalized the recreational use. And that 20% is feeling much better this morning. The support for mass transit also passed, a really important initiative. Residents of Los Angeles, Seattle, the San Francisco Bay Area, and elsewhere across the country voted to increase local taxes to expand and improve rail lines. And higher minimum wages in blue and red states. Arizona, Colorado, Maine, and Washington voted to raise their state minimum wages to at least $12 an hour by 2020 and to automatically adjust them for inflation thereafter. And the initiatives in Arizona and Washington also provided for minimum paid sick leave. And in South Dakota, a ballot proposition that would have established a lower state minimum for non-tipped workers under age 18 failed, yippee, by a large margin. And stronger gun control. Voters in California approved Proposition 63, mandating background checks for ammunition purchases, and banning large-capacity magazines that can hold more than 10 cartridges, and requiring law enforcement to confiscate the weapons of newly convicted felons. And in Washington state, a majority backed a proposal to give judges the power to seize the weapons of people deemed a threat to public safety or their families. That's really important in terms of domestic femicide, I should say. And Nevada residents approved a proposal to expand background checks for private gun sales, with a very few exceptions. That's all in the good news department. The Asian American community got pretty much ignored in this election, and often is ignored in general. And so it's important to know that Hillary Rodham was the runaway favorite of registered Asian American voters. This is a fresh poll from the National Asian American Survey. Clinton trounced Donald Trump among Asian Americans with 55% support to his 14% support. 8% of registered Asian American voters favor another candidate, and among the 16% who are undecided, 7 in 10 lean strongly toward Clinton. And then, hello and hallelujah, Sheriff Joe Arpaio was voted out of office. You may remember him. He's the sheriff in Phoenix, Arizona, who is 84 and was first elected in 1993, and his crackdowns on undocumented residents foreshadowed Trump's position on immigration. And of course he endorsed Trump, and Trump praised him. And he was a birther. Federal prosecutors have charged him with criminal contempt of court for violating an order by continuing to arrest immigrants with no evidence they'd broken any state law. That, by the way, came on top of a 2007 civil lawsuit that found against him in a claim that he racially profiled Latinos. And he conducted mass raids of factories where Latinos worked. He was notorious for forcing prisoners to wear pink underwear and live in tents in Arizona's harsh desert climate. He was voted out of office, this 84-year-old leftover from some earlier stage of evolution. That's wonderful news. And last but hardly least, hold on to this. Hillary Rodham and everything she stood for won the popular vote. It was the Electoral College that she did not win. This is the second time, of course, that this has happened. This was Gore v. Bush, and Gore won the popular vote. So in future programs, we're going to be looking at the Electoral College again for the umpteenth time, but this time we must do something about it. Those are some headlines you can cling to, and in these days, even a straw to cling to is a good thing. We have to take a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I will be back in just a moment with the roundtable of feminist thinkers addressing how we got here and what do we do about it. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. And now for our roundtable. A note, this roundtable conversation was recorded on November 9th, midday, the day after the election returns came in fact, that long night where everyone waited for the returns. And so everyone was still freshly stunned by the news. But these are good minds, good feminist thinking minds, and intelligence is always, at least I find, a great comfort. So here you will eavesdrop on us strategizing, comforting each other, still staggering through the mist, but we'll be doing that for a while, and most of all, trying to find a way for all of us and the planet itself, a way forward. Welcome, dear sisters, in this dark day to Women's Media Center Live. I'm very grateful to all of you for being here on the phone. And we have Maria Teresa Kumar of Voto Latino. We have Salamishah Tillet. We have Eleanor Smeal, and we have Gloria Steinem. And I need your good minds and our spirits together, and so do our listeners. So let's start with Maria Teresa. Let's start with you, because the Latino vote was so crucial and you killed yourself registering new people. This is the basic question for to start with, I think. What the hell just happened? How did we get here?
Robin, I think that we're all stunned, and just from a very clinical perspective, the Latino community grew its electorate. They came out and participated. But it's clear that we were not enough, and we needed more allies and more skin in the game. We just got records that there were roughly 4 million people that sat it out. We had, of Americans in general, we had about roughly 4 million people, less voters than in 2012. So I think there's going to be a lot of unpacking of who decided to sit it out. I also want to highlight that it's the very first election without the Voting Rights Act.
Yes.
There were over 800, close to 900 polling stations that were closed in North Carolina, almost 200 of them. So when we say where were those 4 million, I wonder how many of them are disproportionately poor African Americans that and whites that just could not get to the polls. In Florida, polling stations that were once on college campuses no longer are. So we have a lot of examination on that from just, again, a pure systemic perspective.
Yeah. All right. Those are crucial central points. Ellie, what about you?
Well, we got to look at one good thing. We won the popular vote. But we have an electoral college system that, like our Congress, is a victim of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
And so it gives you an lopsided result. It happened against Gore too. But I also think that we have to recognize that we're losing certain segments of the population. However, let us not forget this was a systematic big lie, a destruction of her, of Hillary, and not only that, Comey entered.
Yes.
The FBI entered, and I think we have to be very concerned about that interference. That could have been the 6 points. That could have made all the difference. And I don't think we should forget that. I personally think it should still be investigated.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say one other thing. The young are the hope on this. We did very well with under 45. We have a serious problem with the baby boomers who deserted. And obviously we have to do something about white older population. We cannot ignore this. I believe that, I know we keep saying people act as hate. I think it's fear. And I really feel that we have to have more resources so that a big lie cannot win.
Okay. I want to come back to all of these points, but remember what you mean in terms of more resources when we get back to it. Salamishah.
Yeah, I mean, we're all, as we've said, been scratching our heads this morning. And I guess I'm really interested in the huge discrepancy in the polling and the reality of how people voted. And so a good friend of mine this morning, Pamela Schiffman, ED of the Nova Foundation, was reminding me of the Bradley effect and the ways in which in 1982 people said that they were going to vote for Bradley, the African American candidate who was running for governor of California, and really didn't vote for him, right? So I guess now we can think of this as the Clinton Hillary Clinton effect, in which people I guess disproportionately white voters said that they were probably voting against Donald Trump, and then when they went into the voting booth, they voted for him. And so the way in which, I think for all of us, the way in which sexism and misogyny and patriarchy really work to undermine her candidacy and to make her a kind of invalid candidate, a delegitimate candidate from the very beginning, is something I think generations of feminists are going to have to really reckon with and try to understand and try to get to the population that Ellie was talking about, white working class women voters. Like, what are the strategies? Because Clinton's policies were in many ways in their best interest. So what are the strategies that we as... So, I mean, I guess I just want to throw that out there, that the polling and the reality were big. People just didn't want to admit that they weren't going to vote for her.
Yeah. Wow. Gloria.
Well, I agree with everything that's just been said. One of the instructive moments for me was watching a pollster on CBS this morning explaining that a big part of the reason that the polls were inaccurate was that the Trump voter was so hostile and alienated that they refused to answer questions of the pollsters. I thought that was significant about their state of mind. That's one thing. Also, this is real economic suffering and real sense of nobody's listening and Washington doesn't care about me, but it's also flat out bias.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the white lash and the man lash, and very, very clearly against Hillary on her issues and on her persona.
Yeah.
And it went very, very deep, and people, especially white men of a certain group, felt emasculated by her. And others, including some women, felt, who does she think she is, and she can do no right, or she can't be right enough. But the whole factors of race and sex are there, and those are going to take longer to solve. I think that we, being who we are, tend to take the fault onto ourselves, and there is fault. We did do things wrong, and we have to, or not reach out enough, and we have to know that. But we also have to recognize the sheer embedded bias that is present, and that is going to go away by attrition, but not necessarily by rational argument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That I mean, we're all concerned about the class aspect of this, but while everybody has been saying again and again, me included, that so many white men are struggling economically, it's important to remember that the driving force, I mean, the median household income of Trump voters was about $72,000 a year, which is $16,000 more than the national median household income. So that tells me that this is as much or more about power as it is about money and perception as well, because I think it was more than half of men believed that Trump, for example, respected women a lot or some, whereas 2/3 of this was after the name calling, this is after the Miss Universe, this is after the overheard conversation on the bus, but that's at the same point where nearly 2/3 of women said he did not respect women. So we have a real problem. I mean, what Salamishah said, I also find interesting, because to me it seems like at its core, underneath all those other issues, economic and globalization and their fear of modernization and their lacking skills for the IT revolution, underneath all of that, is a diseased, dying patriarchal system that is trying to fight to the death to save its power, sexist and racist.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's the man who says to me, a black woman took my job.
That's right. That's right.
So what's wrong with that sentence? It's not his job.
Yeah.
Who said it was his job?
Right,
but that notion on his part is deep.
The entitlement.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
One of the things, though, when I was saying resources, I did a lot of campaigning, like in upper north Ohio, and there is I can't explain it. These places are depopulated. It is in bad shape. Now, he lied. He's not going to do anything really about bringing jobs. These were areas where they were jobbers for the for the auto industry. Mm-hmm. But basically, yes, I agree. There's bias. Everything everybody said, but I also think there's a lot of fear, and people who think of things about us that are also not true. In other words, I think we got to spend more. Maybe I'm crazy on this, but I really think we got to go back to grassroots organizing in these very difficult areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, and basically, it's not just technology that we're behind. We really don't know how we're going to create these jobs. I mean, we got to start admitting that there's real serious problems with our economy and the dispersion. Anyway, the reason I'm saying maybe I'm taking too much a burden on ourselves, but we can't leave. We've got to do more on the grassroots side. And I saw the people on the ground doing the volunteer work. And all the places I went were older women, and but and there was an awful lot of young men telling them what to do. So we got to deal with, I think, the disrespect, frankly, of older women too. I mean, in other words, there's a dissatisfaction with how things were run. I mean, that doesn't account for some of this, and we did win the popular vote. But I do think that we have to build a bigger ground force.
Well,
Ellie. Well, and I think one thing though too. In the last couple of weeks, I went to college campuses and I was talking to college students. What sticks out in my mind though was when I was in Georgia at an all women's college, and there was such anger and contempt because of misinformation, and our media we are now living in a world where that facts don't matter.
Yes. And
we have to figure out how do we start giving and holding actual digital literacy on media literacy and consumption. One of the young women basically said, how, as an American, can I vote for a candidate that is under FBI investigation for murdering 4 Americans? This is a young woman on a college campus.
Wow.
Right. But the media, of course, did not ask a counter question, which is how can you vote for a man who, if he is president?
Well, it wasn't true though. But what I'm saying is but even her. So this woman. So we can't say that it's marginalized communities that are not getting information. This is where, if anything, this is where our checks and balances, we have to figure out how do we strengthen our sources of information so that we are consuming something that is real.
The media have to have their toes held to the fire, because as we've seen, even by their own estimates, they gave $2 billion in free coverage to him without any fact checking. And when challenged about it, said, well, of course we're going to do it, because we get viewers and therefore we get advertising.
It's great. It's bad for America, but great for CBS, said Les Moonves. And Jeff Zucker at NBC and then later at CNN said the same thing. Salamishah, I don't want you to get lost in here.
Yeah. Well,
leap in.
No, it's okay. But I was thinking of two things with the media conversation. I'll just go back to something else that we've been talking about. The media conversation. I mean, I think print journalism, this dying industry, actually got a lot right. I think television and cable news. So without print journalism and the journalists really trying to follow various trails, whether it's a tax record or even releasing or the tape, the Access Hollywood video, right? So there's the difference between what media really was committed to trying to preserve democracy and hold this candidate.
Yeah, it was mainly television that was the problem.
Television.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing, and this is to Ellie's point, so I mean, I completely agree that that the narrative we're going to have in many ways is that white working class people are suffering, and white working class women and non-college educated whites are suffering, and therefore this is a backlash. But there's also a strong constituent of white suburban women who are college educated, and I don't know what's the narrative about that group? Is it in terms of fear or anxiety?
I've just been emailing an answer to a query about her. I mean, I think that group we've always known was a question of being told all your life that you need a man to protect you and to support you, which is somewhat supported by economic arguments, but is very deep culturally, and is true of white women way more than black women, because white women, think that there's reasonably think that there is a white man who makes more money, whereas black women have been in the labor force themselves and are not seeing black men who are treated with the same favorable economic reward. And there has always, from 72, that was true when Ms. Magazine did our first surveys, that it was married white, not single white women, but married white women.
Married.
Who had what we would refer to as internalized oppression, that is, the belief that they couldn't do it themselves.
But I think that's who Hillary Clinton thought she could convert. I mean, I think at the end of the last 2 months of the election, by focusing on women's issues explicitly, by focusing on his degradation and assault on women, she was trying to convert that voter, and that voter just didn't turn. So I guess for me, it's what are women's issues really, and what kind of I'm just going through a lot of different, trying to think about how we can strategize and organize for the future to appeal to constituents that obviously didn't vote for her.
We did carry, however, white college-educated women, not by much, but it was 51 to 45, if we can believe these exit polls, where we didn't carry white non-college. We lost it by 62%. So, but I think we also have to deal with the fact that how this big lie thing worked, because basically we tried to hit him and try to get press on the fact that he was running this modeling agency, all these side issues, that the Trump University thing, but nothing stuck. I mean, the press did not cover. He's going to court on November 28th on Trump University
on fraud, and in December he is facing rape charges of a 13-year-old in Florida. It was dismissed. She has
withdrawn the charges.
No, she has withdrawn them, but then they were reinstated, Gloria, and this time there's a witness. So she may withdraw them again under pressure, because obviously she's terrified. But every time, he would float the thing of, if you elect Hillary, you'll be facing a president-elect who, will be under indictment, which she wouldn't have been, and there was no proof of that. No journalist ever responded by saying, well, yes, sir, but you're going into court in a month on fraud, and then there is this alleged rape.
Racketeering.
And an alleged rape case. So...
Well, also, they never got onto the fact that he accuses other people of what he has done.
That's right.
And his sniffing, a constant sniffing on camera, and saying, let's take a drug test, seemed to me proof that cocaine was really perhaps the cause of his sniffing.
Well, Maria Teresa, since you raised the media, and I agree that print media stepped up finally, too late, but it did step up, particularly the Washington Post, Newsweek, and the New York Times. But broadcast media so in debt to the ratings. You think that there is going to be a reevaluation? Do you think that there's going to be an understanding of the responsibility here, that we didn't have a free press in this?
I hope so, Robin. I think that now is the time for us to be diligent and to hold folks accountable. Right now, it's the only institution, while as vulnerable as it is, because it was so heavily attacked during this campaign, we have to keep in mind that it's perhaps the only system of pure checks and balances that we may have left for right now.
Yeah.
Right? I'm hopeful that we have to keep an open mind that the candidate is not the person, but that is something that we have to wait and see. I can tell you from the the Latino immigrant perspective, there is a lot of fear right now. You have roughly 16 million Americans who live in mixed status families. Under President Obama, we had DACA, which basically created a federal registry for people that came here under 16 years old to come forward so that they can work. They came here under no fault of their own. And he is now, they have come forward, and we have 500,000 people where have come out of the shadows that have exposed themselves and their family. And my hope is that that cooler minds prevail, and that there is not a roundup, because it's, as Gloria said, he has done everything that he projects on other people, but he has also done everything that he says he's going to do.
Yes, he does. We have to take a brief pause here at Women's Media Center Live, but we will be back in just a moment with our terrific panel.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back with our roundtable of, in reverse order this time, Gloria Steinem, Eleanor Smeal, Salamishah Tillet, and Maria Teresa Kumar. We were talking about media, and I also want to talk about the young voter, and did we or did we not lose the millennial vote, because there are some stats say 9% of that vote went to third parties, and that's that same damn third party problem where people don't seem to care or believe that the fallout will be disastrous. So let's talk for a minute about younger voters, and where do we go from here? Anybody feel free to leap in. Salamishah, you may be the youngest, so why don't you start?
Well, I mean, I was thinking more, that may be the case, but also I was thinking because I'm a college professor, and I'm on, I work with teach young people. And so, and I think everyone else can speak to the data. It was really hard to tell. I mean, I think there was a lot, at least for me, when the primaries were going, there was so much enthusiasm around Bernie Sanders. I mean, I think pretty consistently the majority of my students supported his candidacy. Even students who were not eligible to vote in the primary were firm supporters of Bernie Sanders. And so how that energy was converted or not converted, I think, is going to be, again, something we can look back on and think about. But I guess this is, youth and optimism and risk-taking, that's kind of all part of being a young voter. And so I guess the problem now is I don't think enough people may have understood the stakes of the election, and I don't think people really believe that misogyny and patriarchy and sexism were operating in such vast amounts of ways, or even understood that WikiLeaks and the way in which emails of one candidate being shown to the world was in fact cheating, right? Like I just think we're living in a hyper surveillance society in which we have access to people's intimate thoughts so easily that wasn't seen as something that was as problematic and fundamentally undemocratic and unpatriotic as it was. And so I think there's just a convergence of, when we think about the millennial voters' mindset, I think there's just a number of things converging, and they've experienced 8 years of Barack Obama, so I think it seemed maybe that it was inevitable that she was going to become president, as opposed to a candidate to rally around and to be excited about.
But Salamishah, how much in your observation of that is just due to someone who's a new face? I mean, it may be as old as Bernie, or it may be Obama, but someone who's perceived as fresh, somewhat outside Washington. Of course, Bernie was there, but I mean, a new face. In and of itself.
Yeah, but they were. Oh, you mean because they weren't voting for Trump? So I guess he wasn't the new shiny object the way the media responded to him. But I do think that Bernie.
But some people, but I have run into a surprising number of people who were for Bernie and then were for Trump.
That blows my mind.
I know, but it's the outside.
Robin, I met on the road. I met a lot of those people. No, I met a lot of those people, and I met a lot of young people who, and not yet just people in general, where when you asked who they were going to vote for, they would say, "I'm voting for Bernie," and if it's not Bernie, I'm voting for Trump. right? Identifying them as the same. And I think that a missed opportunity in this election, if you were to ask the average voter where candidates stood on issues, we never had that conversation.
Well, we also never had that conversation because 32 minutes to all policy issues this year were on the nightly news on ABC, NBC, and CBS combined. That's less than 1/3 of the airtime that they devoted to Clinton's emails. So that's pretty terrifying.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
I want to before, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I don't want to not touch a crucial base because one dear friend of mine said we didn't have a plan B. We didn't. And what would our plan B be? And also, it has to be fast because environment, which was such a crucial piece of the Obama legacy, which will be undone in a blink of an eye. This is all pretty scary. Anybody want to leap in on those fronts? Plan B and saving the planet, just a small.
Well, what we have the most of now is our courts. So any kind of legal action, even though it's imperfect, we still do have, as we can see in the voting rights cases.
Well, we're about to lose the Supreme Court. You do know that.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying that state and federal courts still have some rational people on them, and one can bring challenges to and some environmental cases.
Right.
I agree with that, and also I think we must act swiftly. We have to have a delaying tactic. I mean, we cannot just pretend that we're in a la-la land. I feel that we have to rally our side rapidly and organize to delay, because what's at stake, we do have another election in 2 years, and we maybe could take up some speed, but we can't, if we just decide, we're going to give them a big honeymoon, I think it would be a big mistake.
I don't think anybody's going to give them a honeymoon, Ellie, but I do think, people were already on the streets in Oakland and some other cities last night, and I think that this exacerbates, of course, the polarization, and I'm terrified of what his answer will be to that exacerbation. So all due speed, you bet. What about
in a long-term sense, Ellie? I think that what we've always said to each other is that we should have been focusing way more on state legislatures.
Absolutely.
At least as much on state legislatures as on Washington, and we did not continue that after the Equal Rights Amendment. And so I would say a long-term, ground-up tactic is really focusing on that, because that is where the universities are not getting money, kids are graduating in debt, prisons are being built, and they are redistricting themselves into perpetuity in the House of Representatives.
Well, that's why we have to fight redistricting. We're up 2020, unfortunately, isn't that far away, and we have to. I totally agree. We've got to fight gerrymandering. Yeah. And I'm glad that Obama. But
I think the way to do that is to be clear about the degree to which the state legislature affects your daily life, so it doesn't just turn into a distant Washington issue. So we do what we used to do, which is to say, okay, these 20 people focus on one state legislator and monitor him and make his life miserable, and to divide it up and make it doable and interesting and diverse about issues.
What about Maria Teresa and Salamishah? What about communities of color, other than the particular anguish and fear, especially in this case, the Latino community must be going through, and certainly the Muslim community, my God. What about Plan B or strategies?
Well, I guess, Maria, you can speak about. I was thinking primarily of two big movements that we see happening with, in North Dakota, and then obviously in Black Lives Matter, and what those movements look like under a Trump administration. I was always very concerned about that, specifically thinking of Nixon with the Black Panther Party in the late 60s, early 70s. And
exactly. So I had the same thought.
and I always thought Black Lives Matter, though they didn't support a candidate, would be able to push Clinton in ways that we will now see a return of law and order. So I think part of what I'm interested in addition to what Ellie and Gloria were talking about, is like the movements that we see happening now that are on the verge of really blossoming or about to see some real retrenchment and real hyper surveillance and real punitive responses from the state. And so I think working towards hopefully buttressing those movements more concretely.
Yeah, I think that we need to recruit all available people who can call attention or be powerful or vulnerable or whatever it is that increases the strength of the people at Standing Rock I think that is of immediate concern this minute, right?
And working alliances, it seems to me, which we have sort of, but we, there's so much work to do and there's such specific needs. But since we are regarded as one great monolithic glob by them, we might as well be united in a new way that we haven't been before. And whether that's in, communities of color, the feminist community, the gay and lesbian community, the environmental community, all of the above and more.
Well, I think that boils down to saying you have 10 people on your phone who you can call when there's nothing beats trust and knowing each other. And, having names of people you can call for help or call to volunteer to.
Yeah, this is true. We've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left, and I mean, not surprisingly, in a brief time here, we haven't been able to come up with the perfect answers to the problem that we are now facing. But we made
we've come up with a lot of answers.
We have come up. No, we made a good start. I would really be grateful, though, to each of you. People are so heartbroken. People are so dispirited. People are so staggered and stunned and nauseated. I mean, there's literally a feeling of nausea alive in the land. Is there what comforting remarks of sisterhood and vision can you offer each other, and the listeners, because it's really, really needed. So I'm just going to start with Ellie this time.
I think we got to keep in focus that we are a majority movement, that together we can keep building and stay not only positive, but we, as Gloria said, we got to hit the states, but we also have to hit Congress. We can't let them. We have to realize that we still are a majority movement when we're all together, and not forget that we can win. And we can't become depressed.
Susan B. Anthony, failure is impossible. So Salamishah, words of comfort?
Comfort?
I don't know, honey. I don't know.
I think, I was just thinking about how I felt when Gore and Bush and that kind of level of pessimism and depression that I felt, and then we felt like we could use that energy, and we did create a coalition to usher in President Obama. And yet, there are limits to what he was able to do. And so I guess I think that we have to figure out how to have even more radical and progressive coalition that really speaks to the interest of those who are most disenfranchised, and use this as the moment to kind of galvanize and try to really create a democracy that represents those who are here. So, I don't really have anything to say other than
that helped. That works for me. Gloria?
I think it's important to keep remembering that real change comes from the bottom up, not the top down. Never mind what they're doing. We, as Ellie says, have a majority movement. We're doing, we're making change the way we always have made change. In many ways, it's more fun to be in opposition than in office. It's boring to be in office. And
I'd like a little boredom.
No, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
And also, I think we should unify. We should say, look, we're a majority movement. We are all these different parts coming together, and now we have Barack, Michelle, and Hillary to lead us.
Okay. And Maria Teresa? Maria Teresa, are you there? Oh, dear. I think we lost Maria Teresa.
Oh, that's why.
That's devastating. Well, I mean, I guess La Lucha continue. Listen, I'm enormously grateful. She probably was called away by MSNBC. I'm so sorry. I'm so grateful to all of you. We're still reeling, and to do this the day of Hillary's concession, and we're all still stunned. But as usual, I guess we'll pick ourselves up and go forward. The time is short in terms of the planet and the planet's demands, and that has to keep reminding us and keep ticking with us. But I hope you'll all come back, because we have a lot of work ahead of us, and I'm enormously grateful to you for being with us today. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Robin, for giving us this place to be together. Thank you.
It's time for one last break here at Women's Media Center Live, but coming right up, my fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back again to some fighting words. Dear listeners, I respect your intelligence, so I won't offer you simplistic feel-better comfort facing what we face. Yet I do want to focus us both on what resilience is within our reach. Yes, we're in mourning, not simply because the qualified candidate who won the popular vote and would have made history as the first woman president lost the election. We're also in shock because our information systems prepared us for something utterly different. We're also in grief. We're grieving for children in households of Muslim Americans and Latino communities, kids who are having nightmares about family members being deported, interred, lynched. We're grieving not so much because of who Donald Trump is or isn't, but because of who his supporters are and are not. I won't sentimentalize here. Yes, they include David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan, and half of them believe Japanese internment camps in World War II were a good idea, and 20% disagreed with the Emancipation Proclamation. And yes, economic pain turns out to have actually been less of a driving force than white males' fear of losing power. But many of those supporters just didn't think it through, voting instead from powerful swells of emotion and lack of facts, but most because our information systems of education and media didn't make those facts available. We're also grieving because well-meaning people felt it was more important to feel personally self-righteous about lodging a protest vote than to take responsibility for the fate of their planet. Shock, mourning, and grief eventually do pass. But we must comprehend that we're in a state of dread. This is the cause of widespread reported chronic nausea. This is why, on awakening in the morning, there's one brief second of normalcy in the consciousness. Ooh, coffee to come, or bird song outside the window, or a pet's imperious yelp or meow, demanding to be walked or fed. And then we remember and crash. Dread is based on what's yet to come. Rumors abound. Newt Gingrich for Secretary of State, Rudy Giuliani for Attorney General, the Supreme Court appointment that would dissolve Roe v. Wade, the severing of climate accords and the nuclear pact with Iran. The dread is not unreasonable. Those or comparable announcements will come each time, smashing us back into shock and grief. It's the dread that has us paralyzed. So we must find a way of dealing with this that stops us only for that moment, lets us recalibrate balance, and walk on. I'm telling myself this as much as telling you. We each need to get some perspective, to, if necessary, force-feed ourselves some pleasure, and to build resilience. Take a few days, not many, to lower as much as you can the obsessiveness induced by this dread. Disconnect from or lessen continual news junkiness on your phones or TVs. I assure you, if World War III breaks out, somebody will let you know. Use that time defiantly. This, too, is a political act. Reread a cherished book. Go to a movie. Listen to music. Listen to music. Listen to music. The world still exists. The universe is still around. Check out the glory of the Hubble website. Remember that the Sombrero Galaxy and Crab Nebula don't give a damn about anguish on this small backwater planet. Get outdoors if you can. I went into my little city garden in the middle of the night and lay down flat on the cold soil, digging my fingers into it, breathing in the rich perfume of autumn earth, feeling the crisp burgundy and tawny leaves crunching around me with my every gesture, remembering that the indifferent planet moves at its own speed, not ours. So get somewhere green, even if it's only a park, even if for only an hour or so. It's scientifically proven that even 15 minutes in some natural setting lowers blood pressure, calms breathing and pulse, and releases endorphins. You'll want to release those endorphins, along with oxytocin, the pleasurable tend and befriend hormone activated when one does something for others. And yes, I do feel better sending these words to you. It's another reason for activism. Don't you think those lovely people spontaneously pouring into the streets, city after city across the country these last nights in peaceful marching, feel better for having done so? We're going to need resilience as new developments land, fulfilling the dread. We're going to need agility to respond quickly and energy to organize proactively. We need to be ready in case a 70-year-old man who never exercises, has an apoplectic, manic temperament, gets little sleep, and eats junk food, has less time at his job than anticipated. This program will return again and again to offer analysis and information and to brandish the secret power that's our sense of humor. But not today. Today, since basically what I am is a poet, today I leave you with a poem. These hands. I study them by bedside lamplight, an old woman's hands, strong still but with a loosening grip, bones delicate, gloved in blue embroidery's bulging veins, skin spotted brown as a hen's egg, nails clean, unpolished, short for typing, fingers starting to stiffen, curving to curl toward claws. They twitch and tremor sometimes. Often they cramp, drop teaspoons, fumble keys. They've held a lot in their day, a newborn's featherweight and protest signs and bales of hay, stirred soup and rallies, played chess, tricks, fair, Bach, and for keeps. They've applauded, beckoned, shaken themselves as fists. They've clasped 1,000 other hands, made lists, caressed the flesh of lovers. They never presumed fingerprints were an identity, lifelines of fate, though they did long to hold the whole world in themselves, like the woman sang. Once graceful, these now gnarled hands knot and knit, not wools, but stories, grim tales at times, a witch's hands. A child might fear such hands, though they still twist in grief for other hands that punch time clocks, pray to the void for mercy, pound gavels to silence screams, pull triggers. I study how to teach these hands to let go. Let it all go, let go now. But they reach past me, grabbing pen and pad to scribble a message, words I will find all but illegible once these white-knuckle hours unclench to loose this past cold light's gold dawn. Hold fast, hold tight, hold on. And that's it for today. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMClive.com for the show, plus the archive of all our previous episodes, and at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. And you can check out my own website and blog at robinmorgan.net and find me on Facebook and Twitter, too. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, and our founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us, and don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.